she responded to one, so.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure she'll join
And
us
she was
shortly.
on the technical shootout of.
Hold on, I gotta let my
We
dog
appointed
out
her
real
to the
quick.
SWAAC committee yesterday,
Hmm?
so we reappointed her to the SWAAC committee for another term yesterday.
That is true. I don't see her here yet.
EJ, could I ask you to take attendance in her absence?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I know Teddy is not going to be here. Who else did I hear from? Phil is not going to be here. And I think Terry may only be able to join for a short while, but she's currently not on. If you look at the participant list, we have me, you, Betsy Soulsby. Oh, Christine is here, Liz, Navarre, Charisse, Donna, Jesse, and Lance, and Margaret. So we're missing Tom as well. But I mean, we may have people who are trying to get in. So if you could
I just emailed Peggy because I looked at her email and she didn't say anything about the meeting. So I just emailed her and said, are you joining?
Yeah, I think she was planning on it.
Yeah.
Liz, was Tom on your list for the forward? Or I assume if it was on SWAAC, Tom was on there. Okay. All right, well, let's get going. Do we have a quorum to vote today? Navarre, Christine, Margaret, Jesse, and me. I think that's enough. Well, let's get going. So I sent out the September minutes and on Tuesday. And I guess let's start off by just asking if there are any questions about the minutes or if we're ready to approve the September minutes.
I make a
Anything?
motion to approve them as submitted.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Christine. And everybody who wants to approve them, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody who does not, please say nay. Okay, September minutes are approved. So I'm just going to run through a couple of things on the old business part of the agenda. EJ, I don't have it up. I can
I was
share
about
it.
to say, would you like me to put it up?
Sure, that would be great.
Okay.
The first thing is I just want to update everybody. I have reached back out to Braskem asking them if they will sponsor the roll-offs for PP collection. I have not heard back from them. So I think if I don't hear from them, I'll send them one more reminder, but otherwise we're going to look for another solution to underwrite the roll-offs for that.
Can I say something really quick? Peggy is trying to join. She says she hasn't gotten the new link. And so I'm going to forward over this link, but for whatever reason, she did not get the link. No,
Yeah.
I
EJ, can I just ask and make sure you have Peggy's correct email? And I don't know if you can.
Peggy Giles@me.com.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So she did get this. It might have gone into spam.
I just sent her the one that you sent the rest of us. So hopefully she'll get on fast.
Oh, good. Yes.
Okay. Tom may be having the same problem. He did not write to tell me he couldn't join. So if you could also make sure.
He is on the list and that he's actually joined.
Oh, okay, great. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, how are you? How do you
Good.
spell Peggy's last name?
Gilges.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Okay. I had tried calling in too, because if I can't get on through the link, I usually call in. EJ, if you can work on the background on that.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. I also want to let you know that I followed up with Scott DeFife this past week. He would love to have a follow-up conversation and set up that glass meeting. So we tentatively scheduled, something on the week of October 19th. So Jesse, I was hoping you and Phil could join me. I don't have a date yet. I was going to try to coordinate with everybody's schedule, but Scott DeFife is.
Well, we already kind of met with Scott.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I'm happy to talk about that when we roll around.
Okay.
But we have another meeting scheduled the 28th, and I think we need to talk with Scott. And I think we need to talk about whether or not that's going to be a public meeting attended by many of us or not.
Okay. All right, good.
Can I add something to this? I actually finally got around to calling him and talking with him. And he said that they were going to put out a policy paper. The reason why I wanted to talk to him is about the board's legislative agenda for this coming year.
Mhm.
And he said that they're planning on putting out a policy paper soon, and he would get that ASAP. And I talked with him about meeting with myself and Ann Malik and him, because she does our liaison to BACO, and talking about that. And also you'll see an email for somebody that can help us that'll be very helpful in reaching out to wineries and breweries. I just sent that out.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Liz.
Sure.
I think just so we all stay on the same page, because I talk to Scott weekly, if we can copy on, emails to him, just so we're all aligned and know what the conversations are, because it sounds like, Jesse, based on your communication, we don't need that meeting. I was not aware that any
Sure.
pop-up had happened. So that sounds great.
Okay.
All right, great. That is super. I'm so glad to hear that that's moving forward. I wanted to let everybody know I have invited Mike Baum from Keep Virginia Beautiful to speak with us on a call. He could do November 12th, but he couldn't do other dates. So when Patrick McDonald from Sunoco said he was willing to also speak to the SWAAC, his date was November 12th. So I want to just ask an opinion from you all. I know we want to do something with litter, but I would have to move Mike out until January to be able to have him join, unless we wanted to have 2 guest speakers on one meeting next month. That didn't seem like maybe that would give us enough time to listen and have a discussion. I just wanted to ask the committee, would we like to move Mike Baum up to next month, or are we okay with it being in January? Any feedback on that? Are we okay with that separation? Christine, I know you are working on this litter thing, so I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot for one meeting to have 2. So, but then it also seems a little late to, but
I know.
yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay.
I mean, what date are we thinking about trying to do something with litter? And if Mike comes in January, is that enough coordination time?
That's what I'm worried about. I
think that's the
I
question.
think we're talking like April, for a spring event.
And I could, I haven't heard from Mike, but I could reach out to him as well and try to get some conversations going about that ahead of time.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I did make that introduction and I told him you would be following up. So
Okay.
the problem with December is he had a board meeting the same date and time. So he just wasn't going to be able to do that. But
Okay.
what I might be able to do is for December is try to get Shannon, I can't remember her last name, Ryder, who is the executive director of Keep Pennsylvania Beautiful. She's done a statewide study. I might be able to get her for December. So that would at least, I think, help along with some of our thinking and planning. All right, so I will keep those as is for now. Okay, so then one of the action items we had was for all the subcommittees to review charter and goals. I think the communications committee reported out theirs, so did the operations committee. We did have a meeting with the vision and strategic planning committee this month, and they'll report out in their subcommittee report. We have started drafting the Board of Supervisors report. We're a bit late with that. I sort of sent out a draft to Jesse and Teddy, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap that up in the next few weeks. That's all I had for old business. So I wanted to turn it over to Christine for the Outreach and Communication Subcommittee report out.
Yeah, great. So we met and we talked about a lot of different things, and we spent a lot of time focusing in on bears and getting in the trash, because we're moving forward with the recycling tip of the month. And so I sent out one about bears that I shared in a Google Doc. And so one of the things that we talked about is, how can we help people to alter their bins to secure the trash bin itself? And then we talked about this idea of creating like a community service project, potentially with various groups, if people have the need to alter their trash bins. But we'd have to also check in with the haulers about that as well, so that there ends up not being any problems when it goes to having their trash being emptied. And then I had shared a Google Doc with the tip of the month. And one thing, I had gotten some feedback from Serena that she actually would like to queue up 4 tip of the month so that they're ready to go, and then they can just feed one after another. And so I shared that list. But so I'm thinking, one that would actually makes a lot of sense is to do one on composting that would go along with helping to get some passing on the material about composting for the website. And then another one would be plastics, recycling plastics, and there were some other ideas about propane tanks, how to recycle propane tanks. And then this idea of, do we leave the lids on or off? And I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about, so we would have bears, how to compost, plastics, how to recycle plastic films, and then there would be that 4th one. So if anybody has any ideas about what the 4th one should be from that list, or any other ideas.
So Christine, are you going to just share that Google Doc list for people to put ideas on it?
I did.
Okay.
Did people, I don't know if people were able to access it. I know Margaret was, and Liz took a look at it, but I did share that.
Okay, great.
I think, wasn't there another idea on it about clean, like how clean does clean?
Oh yeah,
have to
how
be?
clean is clean?
Because I think that's one people always wonder about. So that could be the 4th one. That and the plastic bags and the propane tanks, since it's the end of camping season, I think are timely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was gonna say
Absolutely.
one that I get a lot is clothing. Like the clothing, people understand what to do about the good kind, the kind that has minimal stains, but beyond that, yeah, that's a big one I get.
Yeah, so like when you're doing a little bit of spring cleaning and turning over your clothes, what should you do with them? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really hard one, Terry. We're actually working on 2 projects looking at trying to develop textile MRFs and working with, fiber to fiber recycling, but it is really not well established. So, I mean, we could do a sort of a tip around awareness building on that. I think one of the things that's interesting is one of the big textiles that people donate are towels and sheets, believe it or not, especially commercial operations, hotels, and understanding where those can go, because often they're in quite good shape. I know the SPCA often wants towels, but it would be good for us to do a little bit of research locally to find out what, reuse options we might have locally. And then there is a sort of a rag industry that really likes, good quality textiles, especially if they're cotton. So that's something we could kind of look up locally, I think, and try to put a few FAQs together on that.
Yeah, and I think that'd be good until we actually call up Goodwill and Salvation Army. And I've heard conflicting things like, do they have like a rag bin and do they soiled fabric, do they actually recycle it or does it get dumped in the landfill?
Yeah, well, only about 10 to 15% of what we donated comes out and goes actually into the thrift market. Most of it, if it's dirty, it gets dumped. So you should never donate anything that's dirty. And if there's any question, because lice are an issue in used textiles, if there's any question, it gets dumped. But then the rest of it largely gets exported. It may go through a greater sorter process, and so rag quality and some other quality things, but they will grade and sort to different markets. We do a bit of that in the US, but a lot of it happens outside our borders, and then the bulk of it is exported. So that's getting to be interesting because some countries are starting to bar their markets from the import of textiles. So it's a really good option because outside of the petroleum industry, the textile industry is the most environmentally impactful industry there is. So I think raising awareness about that is really, really a positive thing for us to do.
All right, so that sounds like a good one to be looking at. So, so I was going to put down, and I'll ask for some feedback for information, and I'll make sure that I send them out so you guys can look at them before I send them to Serena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And you did
Yeah.
a terrific job on the bear one, Christine. It was really good.
Oh yeah. Well, it's been something we've experienced, right? Close to home.
Absolutely.
And then, and so then I do have some stuff that I'm going to send to Serena around the composting, and because there is in the FAQ, there's a place where it says, check out how you can compost, and then there isn't really a link there. So I'm going to send that to her. And we've talked a little bit about America Recycles Day planning, and then, continue to look at the various links on the web pages. And then I worked a little bit on, Anne had talked about creating a survey to look at people's recycling habits. And so I created a Google Doc where I looked at the Pinellas infographic, and I actually found the document that generated that infographic, and had been looking at the questions that they posed there. And so they were getting after some really interesting things like, what kind of housing do you live in, and what access do you have to curbside recycling? And so I shared that just with the subcommittee, but I'm going to share it with everybody. And so just to have a list of potential questions that can be ready to go. I know Serena had talked about packaging those questions with other surveys. So hopefully they'll be ready to go when that happens.
Well, Christine, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for digging into that. That's awesome. So I haven't had a chance to look at them, but
yeah,
that's really great.
And so we also talked about making this kid-friendly recycling info deck. And then I just want to let you guys know that, again, that Peggy and I are going to be doing a presentation for the Master Naturalist, Ribana Master Naturalist, in November. So we'll be doing basically the same one that we had done, or similar to the one that we had done for the library. And then,
Christine, if you want to send the deck that you had challenges with, I'm happy to take that and make any edits you want, in PowerPoint, make it a PDF, and then you should be able to present it easily.
Yeah, and I think Peggy sent it to you. And
Okay.
I think she did get the PowerPoint to you.
Okay, I will look at that then.
Yeah. And so we talked about a litter cleanup event. And then we were wondering why Margaret and Peggy were not on the SWAAC list, but then we found out that their membership had lapsed. So it sounds like Peggy's back reappointed, and Margaret, I hope the same will happen with you. And then we'll be able to move forward with that. And, looking at.
Can I just ask EJ a question? EJ, did you see the fact that we actually expanded the charter for SWAC membership that was approved in the spring?
I didn't, and the clerk, the clerk had said that Margaret had not put in an application, and so the clerks are under the impression that all the available spaces on SWAC have been filled, and they do not have an application for Margaret. So if there's a disconnect between that, then we can certainly. I can certainly work with the clerks and get them up to date on that, and we'll have Margaret submit an application if that's what's necessary to have happen at this point.
Yeah, so we modified the SWAC charter to accommodate up to 12 SWAC members. So we have plenty of spaces left. So we need to somehow get the clerks on board with that.
So Margaret would have to submit, my understanding is even if you've expanded your charter, Margaret would still have to submit an application and have it go before the board.
Okay.
And this, I just want to point out that I'm very glad to hear that the clerks don't know that, because we've been really trying to work out how to get the information to the clerks about these kinds of things. There's disconnects between the different county departments. So I will definitely bring that to the EJ. I'm glad you're going to do it. That's great. But I'm also going to bring it to their attention that we need to have a process to make sure when charters are changed that the clerks are kept in the loop.
And it would be also be helpful if we were notified when our terms are expiring too, so
Yeah.
we know that we need to resubmit an application too.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy to do that. I just didn't know that I needed to.
So
Yeah,
that's actually an action item. I've asked for a list of all our board members, when we were appointed and when our terms are up.
And we've also gone to the clerk's office with the same request. And actually at our meeting yesterday was the first time in our package we had the beginnings of a list that would give us that information. So clearly some additional coordination is needed. And Margaret, we're glad to see that you're here, even though you've expired. Your sell-by date has come and gone.
Yeah. EJ, we had talked about that, that you would work on putting that list together with our, when we became SWAC members, and so then when our expiration dates are. Is that, can I kind of reaffirm that as a to-do for you, for us?
That is, so my understanding is that is handled by the clerk's office. And again, I think this goes back to Supervisor Palmer's and Supervisor Price's noting that there does seem to be some disconnect. Whatever we do for SWAC is something that really the county organization will have to apply across the board. So I think that's a conversation that spins up at I can certainly put it into the clerk's hopper, but how that gets spun up and gets resolved is something that I'm not sure how it does, but I can certainly keep an eye on it as it gets resolved.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a master list from Jesse that I inherited, and then I've added the new board members to it. So, I mean, I can share that with you. I'm just worried about this sort of like getting lost, because I mean, I'm happy to issue the reminders to people. I just need to confirm the membership dates of a couple of people, myself included.
I would think that that with the board appointed committees, that there would be a board process, since these are board committees. And certainly if you'll forward that list to me, I will start the conversation with Claudette and see if we can't come to some conclusion that then can be applied so that we don't lose a thread for any of the committees.
Right, great, good. All right, thank you. All right, keep going, Christine. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. So, the ambassador program, right? So there's this question mark, can we advance it during COVID? And, when can that happen? So that just sits there. And then we have some great goals for the upcoming year. And, a lot of it focuses around getting information out through these webinars, using the county website and Kate to help us get these messages with the recycling tip of the month. And then having this litter awareness raising event that's hopefully we'll aim to have one in the spring. And then we also talked about having one again in the fall. And one thing that I did do, I just remembered that I saw that there is Virginia's for Lovers, Not for Litter. I don't know if you guys have seen this campaign that just started about a month ago. And so maybe it's through the governor's office. And so I will share that link. So, if there's some way that Kate can help to promote that as well. So.
Great. All right, thank you very much, Christine. And thank you for keeping everything moving forward. That's
Thank
really
you. And let me just ask, if sharing the Google Doc, does that work for everybody? Has anybody had trouble accessing the Google Doc? But just some feedback on that, if that's the way to go.
It works for me. I think if you're looking for input or, specific input or review, I think if you started the subject line with like input requested,
Okay.
That would be helpful, because between all of us, we share a lot of emails. So I think if we just had some protocols about, if you're looking for feedback or input or whatever, just to put that like in all bold at the beginning is helpful, because then, at least for me, I know I have to pay attention to it and I'll review it. But that sort of helps keep it to the top of the pile.
Thank you.
My only issue with it is that I found I couldn't get to the Google Docs via my county website. I needed to go into my personal. I did, and I read it, but I don't know how many people run into that with their work versus their personal email. But I don't know.
That's interesting. There must be a filter on your county email.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about, how difficult it was to access, and if that was the right way to do, right tool for this.
Well, let's see what sort of reaction. It works for me. So
My only request might be to actually create a folder and then put the documents in there. So if we have a link to rather than having to keep finding individual emails, if we have a link to the folder and bookmark it, then we can always get in, even make one for the solid waste.
that's a
for
great
the whole
idea.
committee. And then we could start having that be a repository of documents.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good
Well,
idea.
like a Dropbox or something like that, Margaret.
Yeah, or you can do that in Google Docs too.
Mhm.
And because the nice thing about Google Docs is you can work on them, collaboratively at this
Right.
kind of in real time, which can be nice.
Well, Margaret, that makes so I have a file structure for all of our SWAAC meetings, our revised charter, the chapter 13 doc, all of that. It makes me think we should make a master SWAAC doc under Google Docs so that people can go see that. Okay.
I think that's a great idea. And it could, it could serve as a reference for all of us too, rather than all of us keeping individual copies of that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, great idea.
So
Peggy, I know you're there now. I saw your name. Can you put that as an action item? And I'm not that familiar with Google Docs, but I'll try to figure it out and then shift my stuff over.
I can help you with that too, Anne, if you want help, just let me know. Or Christine too. I don't mean to leave you out.
Yeah, that's great. So, but Anne, you're going to do the master folder?
Yeah, I'll move the master stuff over.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Jesse, let's turn it over to you in the operations subcommittee.
Thank you. I have a speaking engagement at 5, so I'm going to have a hard stop a couple minutes
Okay.
before 5 o'clock. But I'd like to talk about a few things that we're working on. We were able to meet the 25th, and Terry Kent has agreed to join our subcommittee. Now, she was unable to meet with us on the 25th because of the short notice, but that means that future meetings between myself, Terry, and Tom will be public meetings, as I understand the requirements. We had a discussion with Phil about the communication plan and how we move forward with publicizing the Ivy Convenience Center. We've now got all the pieces in place for a successful recycling and trash operation, and he talked with us about how we need to get, how he is working to get the word out. That's really our first big goal through the operations group. I know Ann would like to talk about a proposed second or third, and I'm happy to get to that. We also talked a little bit about things going on, updates in general. We talked about Electronics Recycling Day. That's coming up on Saturday. So if you're not already signed up, too late. We also talked about the Better Bin app. We had a little bit of a gut check on how we feel the usefulness of that will apply in our market. I think at the end of the day, gut check, go on.
We lost you, Jesse, there for a second.
Sorry, I was having a long pause.
Okay.
I would say we did a gut check on the Better Bin app, and I would love Phil to be able to report sort of how that's moving forward. But in his absence, I don't want to speak for him.
He did send me an email just before the meeting saying he couldn't attend, but also saying that he has decided to not pursue Better Bin, that he just didn't think it was the right fit for Ravenna at this point.
Okay. So I don't have to speak for Phil.
Yeah, you don't have to speak for Phil. So that's the update on it. I think it was really worthwhile for us to try it and participate, because I think, you know, eventually there's going to be an app that's going to be really good, and it could be very helpful to the citizens of Albemarle County, but it just seems like Better Bin needs to do a little bit more development before we could commit, from what Phil conveyed.
Yeah, interesting product, and we'll continue to follow it.
Yeah.
We had a brief conversation about America Recycles Day and what it looks like in the era of COVID. But most of our conversation was really was precipitated by our meeting with Scott DeFife at the Glass Packaging Institute in previous SWAAC meeting. Everybody got really excited about how we can potentially reclaim glass. And what we are thinking is that IVMUC presents a unique opportunity to be a place where everybody can bring glass, who can drop it off source separated, essentially for free. So we are working, Phil has worked with UVA Recycling to bring UVA's glass to there, and I believe that MOU is in place. That'll happen shortly. But the vision is to work with a hauler to bring glass from many glass producing businesses in the Albemarle and Charlottesville area. I mean, I recognize that this is an Albemarle committee, but it's going to be difficult to make anything work economically if we're focused that small. So we are proposing a sort of multi-pronged strategy. I talked with Charisse at the TJPDC, and she has been our point of contact for the solid waste planning unit. What we propose is a meeting of the solid waste planning unit to talk about the idea of all of these localities bringing source separated glass to Ivy. We want to start the conversation with what is the current state in your county and what does it take to bring it to us. Secondly, we have met with Scott DeFife and planned a meeting on October 28th at 2 to 3 p.m. I believe we are going to have 1 or more SWAAC or 3 or more SWAAC members at this meeting, so we should consider making it public.
It's at 3. Sorry, Jesse, it's at 3.
Thank you, Terry. But Terry and I are planning on attending. If anybody else plans on attending, I think we need to consider what it looks like to open this up to more. That meeting is planned to be a focus group with these businesses to talk about what is necessary, what is desired, what is possible. And Scott is going to present a vision of what we'll call Virginia glass. Step one being we need to recover the glass from potential single stream operations and get them into containers. And then we need to work with a hauler to get those containers from those businesses to somewhere like Ivy that will take it. We feel the tipping fee at Ivy will be close to zero because that is the vision for Ivy as a collection hub for glass. And then the question is, how do we work with haulers, a hauler to get from here to there? So with that said, the focus group is dedicated to the customers. That is 3 p.m. October 28th. The meeting of the solid waste planning unit has yet to be scheduled, but that will involve bringing together all of the counties and Albemarle to have this conversation about how we can get roll-offs full of glass. And then there will be a separate conversation with small or large haulers about how we get things like wheeled carts or tip carts or front load or something like that from point A to point B. Again, point B presumably being Ivy.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic, Jesse. Wow. Awesome. I would like to be involved in the conversation on the 28th.
Okay.
Possible.
So in that case, I think that makes it a public meeting. Any thoughts from anybody on that truth, if that's true?
Can we run that by? And I have had this conversation with him multiple times about the subcommittee meetings, and I'm not sure I got a really clear answer about these sort of side meeting things.
Right.
But let's ask him about that.
So EJ, is that a question that y'all can help us track down? Right now, Scott DeFife owns the Zoom link, but we would be happy to produce an Albemarle County link for the same conversation.
Yeah, October 28th, and we're thinking we have 3, and that's a separate conversation from about the subcommittees, correct?
That's right. So I'm going to propose, not to take us off track, but I'm going to propose Friday, October 16th at 1 o'clock for the SWAAC subcommittee. So that would be a public meeting if Tom and Terry are both able to join us.
And it's 1 to 2, 1 to 2:30?
Yep, 1 to 2,
1 to 2.
Friday the 16th. And
Yeah,
then,
that's good for me, Jesse.
great, Tom. So if that works for Terry too, I will schedule that, or I guess you will schedule that, because I will not schedule meetings that are attended by 3 or more members unless you tell me to.
Right. Okay. And then the October 28th meeting?
That is intended to have 3 or more because myself, Terry, Ann, and certainly more people are probably interested in that conversation.
Oh, but we're also not hosting that meeting, right? GPI is hosting that meeting.
Right. So I'm not sure if y'all show up for it, right? You're generally showing up to a meeting. And what time would it be?
3 p.m. on the 28th. So
That's a board meeting day as well.
okay. So yeah, we talked about whether or not how this is going to work. I guess the bottom line is we've got 3 committee members who are interested in joining. Let us know what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll contact legal.
And would you please, EJ, when you contact legal, just CC the clerk's office?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So that is the bulk of our glass update. Terry, did you have anything else you wanted to share, or Tom?
Nope, you covered it. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Jesse. Was there any talk about the potential for introducing like the purple bin program that GPI is sponsored in Northern Virginia here? Because I mean, right now in Charlottesville, all the glass goes in the stream, right?
I'm sorry, you broke up there for a second. Can you ask the second half of that question again?
I was wondering if GPI mentioned the purple, bin program in Northern.
Alexandria, Arlington?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott talked about that as sort of working in parallel to what we're talking about. We had some talks about working with haulers, what the price range needed to be, what the critical mass needed to be. And from their experiences, we got the focus group idea as opposed to let's pack the room with wineries, which was sort of the initial concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm just wondering, you know, I think where we have a high density of bars and restaurants, you know, that could make sense to have some drop-off locations. And also since all the glass in the single stream program, you know, is functionally not getting recycled. So that could be interesting.
So
All
the
right.
proposed meeting starts with that truth and then moves us into how can we precipitate action?
Okay.
So I have a question for Jesse. So the first meeting that you're going to have on the 28th is with haulers. Is
No.
that correct? No.
That is with a focus group of potential customers of a glass hauling route.
Okay.
Phil?
And so you'll let me know if you want Neil Williamson on that call, because that might be a good person
Mm-hmm.
for you
Terry?
to invite.
Terry, thoughts?
Yeah, no, what I was going to say, Liz, is, I mean, our intention on this call is to really learn about, we wanted to get friendlies meaning some warm leads that I had, maximizing that, adding, you know, anybody like Neil. He's definitely a warm lead. I saw that email that you sent. But to really open up the conversation of what the barriers are, the interest, and that kind of thing. And then a separate hauler meeting. Correct, Jesse? That's like,
Okay.
so it's like actually 3 meetings: the localities, the municipalities, the interested vendor, I guess, retailers like wineries, caterers, what have you, and then the haulers.
Okay, so we haven't done anything with the haulers yet. And when Jesse is done, I would like to insert something that's, I'm sorry, Ann, that's new business that I sent out because I just wanted Jesse to hear it since he has to leave at 5. So you can let me know if I can do that. You're
Liz,
muted.
that's no problem, but I would, Jesse, you want to just bring up the other goal I'd like your committee to consider?
Yeah, I'd really like to float this with Phil, right? But
Right.
the goal that has been proposed is, could we look at the paper sort and think about whether or not the paper sort currently meets the needs of this community and whether or not that acts as a bottleneck or an opportunity for improvement for said community? Thoughts?
So I asked this subcommittee to consider that as another goal. It's come up so frequently. It seems like it's a bottleneck. And if we really want to grow recycling, we've got to deal with the bottleneck. So I think there's a strategy question, and then there's a capital, you know, how would we finance any proposed solution? So I sent that out to both Jesse and Teddy as sort of goals to think about and perhaps collaborate on.
Yeah, I think it's clear that the major thing there is the capital. So
that is kind of where we're at. We are right now soliciting friendly voices for this focus group. Some thoughts include participants in the Better Business Challenge, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But if, pardon me, Well Hung Winery, did I get that right?
yes,
Yes.
Open to being involved. Well, who's going to say no to that?
yeah.
Was there, sorry, Liz, was there anything else?
Well, there was one thing I just wanted to mention. I sent out an email just before the meeting started about the Planning Commission ordinance on recycling on industrial and light industrial properties. And just as a quick update, the board recently changed our ordinance on fill and waste in the rural areas, which is where an awful lot of construction debris is being dumped: concrete, asphalt, bricks, et cetera now. So now the demolition community is going to have to either put it somewhere in the development area or have a special use permit and go through the Board of Supervisors to decide where they can actually put it. And that process is going to be interesting. I'm not sure how that's going to go. On the same track, the supervisors have been asking for the staff to look at our ordinance on recycling for brick, cement, that sort of thing, because we have a person on 29 North that's been trying to do this, has a high industrial zone property. But currently our ordinance says that you have to do all this inside of a building, which is completely impractical if you're doing cement and brick, et cetera. So the Planning Commission is going to take the first stab on this on next Tuesday. And I sent that link to the board. I just found out about this today. And it looks to be the first thing about outdoor recycling of this material. It says that the staff doesn't recommend this. So I've got some work to do to figure out. I haven't read the whole thing. I literally just got the link, but, and I know it's really short notice. I can call up individual Planning Commission people, but I can't write them a letter. I can't really go in and talk to the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to bring this up. It would be an interesting opportunity for the SWAAC committee last minute to write a letter and say how important this is to be able to recycle cement and asphalt and that sort of thing without having to have a building to do it inside of.
Yeah, I think that's really critical, Liz. And I wanted to say, you could, U.S. Green Building Council is in Washington, and I bet that they have significant guidance on concrete and other building materials. Asphalt is sort of a different category, but DOTs would certainly have info on that. But you know, I think looking for some comps on demolition debris recycling would be really helpful. And I probably have some leads on that. So if you need some help, let me know. But
yes, that would be great. Or
the
anything we
SWAAC
can
would be
say,
happy
anything.
to write. I think the SWAAC would be happy to write a letter for that. And but the U.S. Green Building Council, I think,
Okay.
would really have some good information for you.
Okay. Well, like I
There was
said,
an editorial in the paper too in support of the decision that the Board of Supervisors made regarding the fill material too, wasn't there? So I thought that was interesting.
yeah, I'm not quite sure. I might have missed it. I'll have to go and look at that. I saw an article in the paper, but I did not see an editorial.
Yeah, I think there was an editorial.
Okay.
Can I break in for a second? This is Lance. I tried raising my hand when the paper sort was mentioned. And I know Phil, Jesse, you have to go. But I would very much like to be included in those conversations. I've had some offline conversations with Phil specifically, and also with Phil and the new Charlottesville Public Works Director, and also the previous interim Public Works Director about the paper sort facilities. And we have some work that we're contemplating, and I think we could support each other there, but I would hate for folks to duplicate what staff is already working on.
Absolutely.
Great.
I think that sounds great, Lance. Absolutely will include you. At this point, I am asking the subcommittees to consider this as an additional goal. Jesse wants to run it by Phil, but I'm hopeful. I think it's such an important issue that I want to kind of raise it to the top of focus, that we just continue to push on what is the capital plan for resolving the issues at the paper sort. And I'd like clarity on what those issues are beyond space. Is it also the baler? What are the specific issues, and then a clear strategy for how we deal with it?
Sure. Well, I can give you the 1-minute version of that. There are a number of issues. There's space. The baler is 25 years old. Has frequent issues with, or not frequent, but it has issues with breaking down. At that age, parts are very difficult to obtain, so it's very possible that there could be an extended downtime is due and overdue replacement. The site is restricted, but also the volume generally. Right now, it's being handled by a full-time person. They could extend the hours, by adding another part-time person and work in the evenings. They can't work side by side or on days where they don't currently work. So that is the restrictions of the floor itself aren't as extreme. A major challenge, though, in terms of improvements to that is that we do not own the building, and or Ravenna doesn't, and city and county don't, and it doesn't even have a current lease. So making improvements to that in that situation is not a wise thing to do. So we are absolutely at a community decision point on what to do with this. And I think the priorities are Baylor first, even if you end up at some point needing to move it to a new facility. And then, you really get into, questions about location, questions about cost allocation between the city and the county, possibilities of partnerships between city, county, and the university for a replacement facility on a mutually agreeable site, or bigger picture visions like, public, all three of that plus some public-private partnership. So there's a lot to talk about in this, and it's an unfortunate time, of course, fiscally for both the city and the county to really make a major investment. But they have our SWA had a study done on this that's really comprehensive, that certainly can be shared with anybody who wants to help us dig down into finding solutions on this.
That's great. Thank you, Lance. Can you re-forward? I think I've seen that paper, but if you could re-forward that study to me, I'd like to see that again. And I think, certainly one of the things we can do is similar to like the relationship with GPI. There were other opportunities, I think, to tap into capital matches or whatever for something like this. So I think it's just clarity on what we need. And I think while it's an unfortunate time fiscally, there's also, I think, unique opportunities perhaps from, space as we have so much change in our retail world now. I think that's probably one of the things we should consider is our new spaces opening up that might end up being better and that the county could actually potentially own.
That all sounds great. Lance, if we've got your support, then I'm happy to take this on as a operations goal. I just wanted to make sure we weren't dabbling in others' business and offering advice that wasn't pertinent. And it sounds like we're only doing one of those things.
I'm not sure you're doing any of them.
So with that said, I've got to run. I would propose the meeting on the 16th, our ops meeting, be focused on really glass and IV. And I would propose that we dig into this question of the sort facility immediately after the meeting with the Glass Packaging Institute on the 28th. So maybe we can schedule something early November if that's not too late.
No, that sounds good.
Okay. My thing's beeping at me. That means I got to go. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you soon.
Thanks, Jesse.
Bye.
All right. So let's shift now to the Planning and Vision Subcommittee. Teddy is not here. So Peggy or Navarre, do you guys want to go over this section? I know we had a meeting to review goals. So Peggy, you want to handle it? Oh, you're muted. I think you're muted. I can't hear you. Mute. There you go. Sorry, can't hear. Navar, can you,
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
yep, you sound good.
Okay. And yeah, Peggy, feel free to chime in here if it starts working, because this will be me trying to remember things from a while back. Here, let me turn on my camera too so you can actually see me. Okay. So yeah, Teddy's been super busy lately, so she's not here. So we want to reach out. We did all that stuff. I'm trying to remember now, maybe last year now or earlier this spring. My sense of time is weird now, but we did all the work with the Chapter 13 revisions earlier in the year to do some trying to be able to capture some of that information that we know haulers are probably taking but not sharing with us currently as part of the permitting process with them. That's kind of based on some things we saw in Alexandria and Fairfax and other places around the state. So we want to reach out to haulers and have a meeting. I don't think we've scheduled anything in that regard yet, but Peggy can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about that, to try to get input and make sure we're not doing anything that's too onerous, but also to kind of let them know it's coming down the pipe and ways we can kind of mesh everybody's interests here. But still get what we need to meet those climate goals and actually be able to measure where we are already.
Yeah, so I want to, so Lance, if you want to step in here, we made those Chapter 13 revisions. Apologize, that's my kid in the background. And we're waiting for an opinion from the Albemarle County legal on it. And it's been sort of, from Greg, we've been on a COVID hold. So, but the next piece of actually moving it forward is facilitating this hauler meeting. So I'd asked Lance actually to give us an update on that. Do you want to chime in, Lance, on where that stands?
Sure, I can let you know what what we're working on. There was the legal piece that needed to be reviewed, and there was also some internal work to do in terms of how Albemarle County organizationally would tackle establishing the program to support it, the methodology behind it. I know Teddy and Navarre and others did really good work looking into a peer agency. We also discovered, though, in discussions with GBB, who's doing the study for us, that both of the team members on that actually manage those same kinds of programs and have done consulting on those. And so we've asked them to sort of fast track some of that internal staff work to provide us with more detail about what best practices are in Virginia and kind of step-by-step processes to get us established for that. And I think, looking at those other operations and also looking at those other codes will help us, tighten this up. My goal is to have that in hand within the next 6 weeks. We're not entirely sure what our budget process is going to look like, but I'd like to have some confidence level in that this is budget neutral while we still have a budget process opportunity. So that's the work we're doing right now on that front.
Great. And Peggy is having a problem unmuting herself, but Peggy, I don't know if you can type in, I know you had more goals than there was, pushing forward the Chapter 13, continuing to monitor state legislation, and I feel like I'm missing one. Oh, and the continue to push for additional convenience centers. Thank you. So I think those are all really great, good goals. And then I had been pushing on this paper sort question, and it's really, catalyzed around if we want to expand into polypropylene, if we want to be able to bale PET separately. I've talked to Phil a bit about this. We just need a bit better spot to do it. So I think that all sounds great. Okay. And Teddy said her schedule is changing, so she will be back with us next month. And Peggy just concurred that she thinks the paper sort goal is quite an important one for us. And likewise, we do not want to get in Phil's business, but if we can be helpful in terms of keeping this on the top of the agenda and top of mind, that it's a bottleneck to us growing recycling. And I would like to think of us as a best practice for a community that has this sort of combination of a city with curbside and basically rural recycling. I think that is representative of quite a bit of Virginia. And if we can kind of establish what a best practice is for communities and how they can make it work, I think that would be quite powerful to try to grow recycling, sort of in our region.
I just want to throw one thing in. I see Navarre put in there, continue additional convenience centers. The paper sort, and Lance can talk to this, but the paper sort is pretty important for going forward with those. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Okay, so I'd like to go to the last part of our agenda, which is sort of governance. And this is where I would just want to, Lance, if you have things you'd like to update us on, this is your time.
Okay. Well, we got a climate action plan approved yesterday. Thank you for all of you who helped write the solid waste chapter. It's an excellent document. EJ and I were in a meeting with GBB consultants earlier this afternoon. I had forwarded it to them, and they just were frankly kind of inspired by it. The solid waste chapter and the document in general, in terms of what that just as a document, the end product's actually quite remarkable in my mind, but also how it can inform their study from a vision standpoint and a specific standpoint. So that it's a good time for us, and I think I think provide the document itself just internally for staff provides a lot of clarity to where to what work we need to be working on in terms of solid waste. So thanks again to the team that supported that. I'll make sure to send a shout out to Jesse as well, because he was really integral to that.
Well, congratulations to you, Lance, for spearheading that. Thank you. That's awesome.
Just it was challenging, but we just had a lot of really great people with a lot of group talent and passion from within the department and other agencies and the community generally. I think the pause we had to take this year earlier in the spring when we were ready to go to the board with the first draft, and had to do another set of outreach to the community and had a little more time to think about it, really ended up making it a much better document, much stronger document. And it is intended as a guide for the future. So I'm pretty pumped. And I've actually taken a little time to walk around the building today, and instead of slaving over my computer, and just virtual sort of from a distance high-fiving people who helped us out with that. It's just really exciting. Other small note, not necessarily small, I think you all met Kate Vasquez from GBB a few meetings back. She's actually taken another position with another company. So we had a handoff meeting with Kate and the person who's a longtime GBB person who's taking over maybe a month ago, and then had a meeting with her this afternoon. And Kate was really strong, but I'll have to say, I think Jennifer Porter, who'll be working with this on this, sort of gets us as a community and our vision better. So I'm pretty excited as well about what the quality of the deliverables will be more suited to what Albemarle really wants. So that was upsetting when we learned about it mid-project, but I think it's going to be for the best in the long run. And that's all I have, unless you all have questions about the budget or want to talk about the paper sort some more.
No, that's great. Just, I mean, you can probably see the chat, but everybody is sending you applause and congratulations, Lance. So thank you so much, on behalf of all of us for doing that, you and your team. That's really wonderful. So I don't think we had too much more on the agenda. Are there particular topics people would like to discuss or bring up, or we can probably, as a record, close the meeting early?
I just one thing about any letter to the Planning Commission. I hate to be I hate to be advocating that, but I do hope that you guys can read what's in there, what I sent out, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like somebody to assign somebody to take the lead on drafting the letter on our behalf. Do I have any volunteers? I know, and we can't hear Peggy. I'm happy to draft something and send it around, but I'm sure if we have sort of input from everybody, it'll be better. So I will take the lead on that and draft a letter in support of how important I think demolition recycling is. So, all right. So Peggy, can you make sure you make that an action item for me so I don't forget it? Okay, folks, I think that's it. Please, again, we still have open positions on the SWAAC. So if there are people who you think are, would be interested and good contributors, please let me know, because I would love to expand our subcommittee, because I think the level of work we have in front of us is substantial. And, given we all have other jobs, it would be helpful if we had a few more hands on deck for some of this work. But with that, if there's nothing else, we can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, Peggy, I will just say, Peggy just typed something saying that she saw a post on Nextdoor from someone who just moved to the county and couldn't find on the county website what to do with yard waste. That was actually one of the action items we had for everybody, was to review and use the county website and give us feedback. The communications subcommittee has done that. They found it a little challenging because you really have to work from that first that first search bar. But I would just ask each of you just to go on and give it one try to find something you're looking for, and just so we can give some feedback on how easy it is or is not. So, all right. With that, let's adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Stay safe.